Hello, lovely people. Welcome to the Almita Made channel. My name is Alma and I'm here to chat about all things making. Today it's mainly about sewing, only about sewing, and it's all about a very special little dress. So a few vlogs ago, I showed you a particularly whimsical, quirky fabric that I picked up in Costa Rica when I went to visit my family recently. And it is the chicken fabric. I will put a link below if you're not familiar with this very important fabric. I will put a link to that vlog and I'll put a picture or a video maybe of the fabric up on the screen. Now, when I bought it, I thought, this is so silly. I mean, I love it. No one else will. But I showed it in that vlog with other fabrics. And honestly, the chicken fabric was the standout. And people's enthusiasm in the comments on Instagram and here on YouTube, it made me so happy that it moved that make right to the top of my to-sew list. Like, I don't have more important stuff to do than sewing up a chicken fabric dress. But it brought me a big smile, and so I decided to start working on it. Now, I had it in my mind straight away that I wanted to make a very pretty dress. Because the fabric is silly, I thought go for a very girly, a very feminine, pretty silhouette. And so I decided to go for what I'm wearing right now. This is another version that I've previously made. So this is the Joelle dress pattern from So Love Patterns. And I absolutely love this version that I've made. It's in a viscose linen. It's got lovely lilac flowers. The details that I really love are the peekaboo, little peekaboo there, and of course this big bow, which you hand sew at the end. So the pattern includes it if you want to make it, but you can leave it out, and it's a cute sweetheart neckline. Of course, as soon as I saw the pattern, I wanted the bow on it. So this is the first version I made now a couple of years ago, I think, and I love it. I've worn it quite a few times. I feel very pretty in it, and I remember it not being too tricky to sew. So I thought that's a very good match for my chicken fabric. And I thought, you know, I think it comes in different lengths. So this is a longer length. I think mine is sort of midi. You can make a maxi version. I didn't have enough of this fabric to make it so, but I wear the midi length all the time. I really like it. And it has pockets and the bow, and it has a zip at the back as well. All of this is in the pattern. Now, when it came to the chicken fabric, I knew that one of the challenges was going to be how to cut the fabric, because it's a border fabric. So there was a detail that I loved with all the chickens at the bottom and at the top. So I knew that I was going to have to be a little bit clever about how I cut it. And I did have 3 meters, but it wasn't the widest of fabrics. So I had to think a little bit about all of that. Because of that, I knew that I couldn't do a long skirt, because the length of the skirt is going to be dictated by how far down you can have the border, if that makes sense. So I knew it was going to be a short skirt. I decided that already. And I made the dress. I started making it. Everything was going fine. I decided to line it because the chicken fabric is a little bit see-through and it's cream. I decided to line it, which is not in the pattern. The pattern is finished with some bias binding here and here. And so the lining was an addition that I decided to make. I also decided to move the zip to the side rather than the back, because I didn't want to interrupt the pattern placement that I will show you in a minute. I found a very good matching color just on Gold Hook Road. It's 100% cotton muslin, it said. It's very thin, very light, I should say. And I thought this will be perfect, really nice against the skin, very good color match. I made all the dress. I didn't change anything fit-wise because I've made it before. I'm very happy with it. My measurements are still the same. So I didn't think about changing anything like that. And then I will put a picture or a video of the finished dress as I made it first. And it looked so cute. And then I tried it on and it was so wrong. Something had gone really wrong. Basically, I'd forgotten from this version that the skirt is fairly tight. Not tight, but it skims the body quite close. And it's comfortable in this version. But I suddenly had added another layer of fabric with the lining. And it's not a lining fabric in terms of slinkiness that will let everything fall. Basically, the muslin of the lining was now fighting against the chicken fabric, and I kept getting it bunched up. I just wore it around the house, walked around, and it just kept bunching up. And I know I could secure the lining, but they were really fighting against each other. And then the other thing, which I should have remembered from making this one, is that the pockets, I don't know what it is, but they just do not lie flat. There's something in the way they're cut. They don't lie flat at all. In fact, wearing this one today again, I remembered that I've hand sewn them down because they were flapping around a little bit too much. So the pockets weren't working for me, and they really weren't working in the chicken dress because you had the pockets flapping around, the muslin pulling them up, making them bunch up even more. I put it on and I honestly cried because I was really upset, because I was really excited about this make, and it looked beautiful. One of those classic, like, picture perfect. But then I put it on and I was so unhappy with the fit. Luckily, I was very happy with the fit up here. So I left it for a couple of days and thought, okay, the solution here is to change the skirt into something with much more room. I'm going to keep the lining as it is, so the lining is nice and fitted, and then I'm going to try and make a more voluminous skirt. I didn't have loads of fabric left at this moment, because you might have seen in my stories on Instagram, I shared it, but I'll put a picture up as well. I thought it would be hilarious to use my chicken fabric remnants to make Pat, my husband, some boxers. I'm very pleased with how they came out, and the pattern placement is very funny to me. And he absolutely loves them. So those are some Darcy boxers. I can't remember the pattern company, but I will put a link in the comments if I can find it and remember the pattern company. But they're a very standard boxer shorts pattern. I think maybe I've made the elastic encased rather than visible. I can't remember, but there are lots of boxer patterns out there that you could use. But yes, so I'd cut out the dress first before I started making it. Big mistake. Do not do this. In the future, I should be more careful. Before I started making the dress, I thought I'll use the remnants to cut out some boxes for Pat. I did that. So by the time I was disappointed with the initial dress, I didn't have loads of fabric left, especially not much of the border, which was the crucial part, because I wanted the border at the bottom of the skirt. That was like a non-negotiable. I needed that because that's how, in my head, it was going to look right. And so I had to be very clever. I had to use the pieces of the skirt that were there already, which were A-line. I straightened those up, cut the pockets right out. I was like, these pockets are not working at all. I cut out some pockets from the classic Sew Over It pockets, basically. I work at Sew Over It. Disclaimer, I love all the patterns, obviously, and I use that pocket piece on literally everything, and it never gives me any trouble. And the way that they're sewn in is so secure and nice. So I knew that I was going to go right with the Sew Over It pockets. And so I got rid of the initial pockets, straightened the panels of the skirt that I already had. So I now had two rectangles, front and back. And then I was very careful to try and find two more rectangles from the rest of the fabric that I had. They weren't huge. They were quite small, narrow, but they were the right length, which was the crucial bit. So I then measured the 4 rectangles that I had, and I thought, hopefully this is enough that if I gather it up, I can get a gathered skirt that fits the bodice, the waistband actually. And hopefully that will give me enough room and a nice puffy look. And I thought, if it doesn't, I might put in some panels from the non-border design, which would have made me sad because it would have been a different effect. But I thought, I really want this dress to happen. I don't want to abandon it. So worst comes to worst, I'm going to use some panels of the creamy cornflakes print, basically, in between, that I can use. And then some panels will have the lovely border at the bottom, which is so cute. and some panels will just be this. And that would have made me a little bit sad, but I thought this could be a way to work around the problem. Luckily, once I basted together the 4 rectangles and did some gathering, I measured it up against the waistband of the bodice that I had finished already. And I thought, yeah, that works. That works because it's longer enough that it's going to puff out. My hips are going to have all the room they need. The pockets aren't going to be a problem because there's now room in there to move. And so I was on track to fix the problem. And I did, luckily, make the skirt. I kept the original lining skirt, and I'm going to show you a little bit of what it looks like. I thought I'd show you it on the hanger first so I can show you more details, and then I'll put it on and put some pictures up as well so you can see. So this is the dress. That bow, I'm sorry, but I'm so happy about that bow. So I've got 2 chickens, a rooster and a chicken hen, I don't know, on either side of the bow tie. And then the tie, and all of this, trust me, was not accidental. All of this was very calculated. I just wanted to show off the print as much as possible. So in the middle, I have the toasted cornflakes, which are from, let me see if I can find one. Yeah, they're from this part of the design. So I've got toasted cornflakes there, really cute, made me very happy. I managed to get the straps out of the little multicolor corn. So that's from the border print. It's this bit. And I managed to get 2 of those. Very happy with that. I just think it brings it all together. And then we have cream, cream, cream. And then the hem, exactly how I wanted it, which I'm so pleased about. And I've mentioned, so the original has a zip at the center back. I knew that I wanted a pride of place for someone at the center back. So I moved the zip to the side. It's an invisible zip, fairly invisible in spite of all the trouble of picking and unpicking. And I'm happy with it. It's fine. And I went for a sort of burnt corn color because I didn't have a cream invisible zip. Of course I don't. But so yeah, this guy is at the center back. That makes me happy. I've got toasted corn on the waistband at the back. I've got some corn on the waistband at the front. I have my pockets. There they are. Very nice. No pattern matching at the side because by this point it was a bit tricky. So what I discovered is that the print is definitely not on the grain. So I cut all the bottom, all of these, I cut, basically this was the selvage, down here was the selvage. And I thought, oh, if I just cut them all the same, they're all going to be aligned. No, they weren't. The selvage was a white bit that went bigger and smaller at different points. So I never stood a chance. But, you know, I've made it work. There's one bit where it shows a bit of selvage on the side seam. I'm going to live with that. And basically the only little problem is that now it's quite short, shorter than I intended to begin with. And that's to do with the fact that I had to recut the panels, the front and back skirt, to fit the biggest panels I could get from the remnants. So we have a very mini dress, which looks adorable. I really like how it looks, but it makes me feel a little bit uncomfortable, even though it's lined. It might be a thing that it's just me. It's not even like I love wearing short skirts, but at least living in London, there is something that I'm always very conscious of going on escalators and steps and things like that in this town because of upskirting and things like that. I just don't like the idea that someone's looking up my skirt. Call me mad. I just hate the thought. I'm sure I'm not alone in that, but it's something that's very prominent in my mind. So my solution for that is that I'm thinking of potentially using the scraps, because I do have some scraps, but they're all mainly of the creamy bit. So I have pieces like this, you know, it's not tiny. I do have a few bits like that. I'm thinking I make some cute little bloomers so that if I ever flash anyone from my short skirt, it's going to be more of the same. that could be cute. We'll see. Also, Pat said just wear some white shorts underneath, and that's absolutely doable as well. I just feel like it would look so much cuter all as one thing. But that will come at some point. In the meantime, we have this lovely little dress, and I'm going to put it on now for you so you can see. Ta-da! This is the lovely chicken dress. I mean, that bow brings me such joy. That is cute. And because this fabric is, I think, mostly cotton, but it's quite, it has a good amount of body. So it really stands proud, prouder than my linen viscose one. I love that. The straps are really cool. I think you get, more of the darker colors, cream, cream, cream. And then the hem is darker as well. The chickens are all hanging out at the hem, which makes me happy. And yeah, the pockets are somewhat quite hidden, which is nice. There it is. And I still have the lining underneath, but they're not fighting against each other because there's plenty of room, because the lining is the hip skimming A-line skirt. And then on top, it's a puffy gathered skirt. I will put pictures or a video up so you can see what I'm talking about. But it is adorable. I'm so pleased, and I'm pleased that the enthusiasm from everyone who watched the vlog has kind of convinced me to make this dress sooner rather than later. It's also still quite warm here in the UK, so I'm going to get to wear this. And you might be thinking, Alma, where exactly are you going in a chicken dress? And I don't really know, but I'll happily go to the pub in this. I'll go for a lovely summer walk with Roy. Roy will enjoy this as well. My pup, so cute. The peekaboo is really cute. The fabric that's against the skin is the 100% cotton. Yeah, maybe I can show you here. So it's just a creamy cotton, really. Very thin cream cotton, which feels very nice to wear against the skin, because I'm not sure, but I feel like this has some polyester in it. Maybe not, but I can't quite tell. And so I'm very happy that I fully lined it. And it wasn't completely easy. I should mention that, because the pattern's not built for a full lining. So I had to get a little bit out of order, do things a little bit in a different order. Basically, I had to sew down the center front before the instructions told me to, for example, so that I could then make all the bodice in the outer, all the bodice in the lining, and then attach it. And then I got completely stuck when it came to this bit, because in the instructions it's bound with some bias binding. And I thought, oh no, I'll just sew them together, lining and outer, around there, and then I can still turn it around. Of course I can't. I ended up with a very weird looking thing. So I decided to just bind it, but bind both the outer and the lining. See, a little bit of binding there. Should have really shown you that before I put the dress on, but hey ho. And so I had to think a little bit carefully about how I constructed the dress in order to do a full lining. But eventually that worked very nicely. The zip worked nicely. The pockets, I'm so happy I changed the pockets. And yes, the skirt isn't all one piece or like two pieces front and back, which would have been nicer. I should have thought of the tightness in advance. I didn't, but I'm so happy that I fixed it, because this dress needed to exist. And I'm glad that a bump in the road didn't mean the end. And I think my biggest advice when things like that happen is to walk away from it, because I was getting very upset and trying to come up with a solution when you're upset and just looking at your failure. That sounds so big, but the plan did not come together. It looked like it had, and then it didn't. So that felt like a failure. And I was looking at it and trying to come up with a solution whilst going, well, I've just ruined it. I've ruined it forever. I've wasted the fabric. There's nothing I can do. That was not helpful to anyone, me or the chickens. So I left it be for, I think it was a couple of days. I sewed something else. And then I went back to it and I came up with the solution of doing a gathered skirt using panels, trying to squeeze out the last few panels with the border at the bottom from the fabric. and it worked. And I'm so, so relieved and so pleased. So yeah, that is the chicken dress that has come to life. And I want to thank you so much for the positive encouragement for the chicken fabric that has now become a chicken dress. And sometimes I do enjoy making something that's just a little bit fun. I think my sewing resolutions for the year actually were to sew a little bit of more out there stuff, because for the last few years I've sewn a lot of sensible stuff. To me, it's all on a scale, mind you, but you know, things that I'm thinking I want to get a lot of use out of this. So a lot of very wearable things, which I love. But at the start of my sewing journey, I used to sew really mad stuff, and I wanted to get a little bit of that back. So I feel like I'm getting there with this, with the tiger suit that I made, things that just make me smile. And I'm gonna challenge myself to wear this out for sure. I think a pub will be absolutely fine, and maybe even a dinner, because it's very pretty. Maybe it's a date night. Pat can wear his boxers quietly underneath, and I'll wear this, and it'll be really cute. But yes, I think that is it for me today. I'm going to just tell you that because the Great British Sewing Bee is back on the UK screens, and I know this might be of absolutely no interest to anyone that's not in the UK, but I want to mention it here because I've decided to do a series, so a weekly series that's a chat about each episode of the Sewing Bee, talking through the things that I loved about it, basically, pretty much. But I'm gonna try and do that every week. I don't want to promise, but I'll do my very best to do every week, and I'm gonna publish it towards the end of the week, so that, because there's gonna be spoilers, obviously I'm gonna mention things, I thought that it would be considerate to do it towards the end of the week, so that hopefully people would have caught up with the latest episode by then. That's the hope anyway, and also to give me a little bit of more time to film it and edit it while I'm also filming and editing these vlogs once a week. So yeah, keep an eye out for that. And if you enjoyed the chicken dress, please do give a big thumbs up to this video. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much to every single one of you who has. Buy me a coffee if you're able to. There's a link below. I really, really appreciate every person that does that, so thank you. And if you can't, just talk about this channel to your sewing friends, because I'm sure there's more of you out there that might enjoy my slightly quirky sense of style. This isn't a full representation of how I dress, but I'm quite happy for it to be an introduction to me if this is the first vlog that you've seen. That would be hilarious. But yes, until I see you again, keep making and keep chatting about making. Bye. Can I come up? Oh God. Why can I not use this? Why am I as high as I can go? Oh, I was. Oh God.